Hey everybody, my name is Aaron Horn and I have Samantha Dolby with me here, and we're from NewBoCo. Thanks to Amy for the opportunity to chat a little bit about workplace readiness and what we're doing at the New Bohemian Innovation Collaborative around that topic. So we'll talk both from the K-12 side as well as the adult career changer side. But if you don't know anything about NewBoCo, NewBoCo started as the Iowa Startup Accelerator back in 2013. And over the years, we have added so many different programs where we saw gaps in the ecosystem that it didn't make sense to just be called the Iowa Startup Accelerator anymore. We are in the New Bohemian district of Cedar Rapids, just south of downtown. And so we changed our name to the New Bohemian Innovation Collaborative, or NewBoCo for short. And all of our programs kind of revolve around these three different areas, or these three different topics. So entrepreneurship, we still run the accelerator. In fact, we added another accelerator, the EdTech accelerator, specifically around EdTech companies or startups. And we've got education. So again, that's what we're going to talk about today, both our long game with K-12 and the short game with adult career changers. And then corporate innovation. So again, we have somewhere around 30 different programs, and they all fall within these three areas. And our mission is, accelerating world-changing ideas from Iowa. And so Iowa is our mission. And so we've, like I said, a lot of these different programs are all things that are run by NewBoCo. So we have a co-working facility in Cedar Rapids. We have Delta V, which we'll talk about in our K-12. We run a big conference called EntreFest that you may have heard of. We have angel groups and things like that. And those all kind of fall under the NewBoCo umbrella. But again, these are the things that we're trying to address, making more rapidly growing, resilient companies in Eastern Iowa and actually across Iowa, trying to build a stronger pipeline, talent pipeline for fast growing companies in Iowa, and increasing the number and quality of startups. And so, most of what we do fall within those areas. We have this nice, beautiful building that sits fairly empty as of right now, but things are starting to come back. So people are starting to come back into the building. But this building, again, in Cedar Rapids was purpose built for this. So the third floor, the top floor is Geonetric, which is a software company. The second floor is where our co-working facility is, our accelerator, things like that. And then the first floor is this huge cafe with room for everybody in the building to kind of get together. And we've got our code school room down there. We have a K-12 room down there. We have a prototyping lab down there. So, again, building purpose built to have a lot of cool collisions that happen with all of these different programs. If you've heard of Iowa Big, they're on that first floor as well. So it's pretty cool to have them in the same building as us. But again, we started as an accelerator. We were the first one in the state. And so again, we launched that. Our first cohort was in 2014. And so, the idea was to get tech companies, tech startups that had an idea and help them grow and hopefully be successful. And so it's industry agnostic, at least the Iowa Startup Accelerator is. So it doesn't matter what industry they're in, but they're startups looking to build something in tech. And then we started seeing the need for some of these startups to get more funding. And so we coalesced an angel group, an angel network, so that angel investors could get together on a regular basis and see pitches from these startups in case they'd be interested in investing. That has since grown to the point where our founder, Eric Engelman, is now heading up ISA Ventures, which is a venture capital studio that is $20 million that will range from really early startups, kind of like we've always done, all the way up to businesses that need a lot more funding for growth and things like that. So they can kind of handle that wide range of financial need from startup companies in Iowa. We also created the first public virtual reality lab. So this is a space on that first floor. That came out of what you're seeing here is a picture of one of our startups that went through our accelerator that was building virtual reality simulators for police. And so they were based out of our building, and now they're in California, going up and down the coast, selling it to police academies and having good success with that. We launched Iowa's first adult code school called Delta V. And I'll just talk a little bit more about that later. So I'll kind of go quickly over that. But, these are adult career changers that are finding new jobs in tech. And we are teaching them to be software developers and now also network administrators and help desk professionals, as well as digital marketers. And so, again, seeing great success coming out of the Code School program. We've had over 15 tech, code, leadership, and entrepreneurship programs for kids. And so that's something that, Samantha's taken the lead on, and we've done a lot of programs for kids around those areas. And we also launched innovation training programs. So basically teaching companies of all sizes how to be more innovative, how to execute their innovation strategies, and essentially just how to be more competitive. One of the things that I know Samantha does too, but I have a passion for, is talking to students about careers in technology. And so this is something that I used to physically go into classrooms quite often and kind of give this talk about what careers in technology really means. And now, thanks to Zoom and how we're all kind of locked in our houses for the most part, I've been doing a lot of these over Zoom lately. And even recording them. And so I'll just throw that out there, that if you would ever have an interest in that recording of this, what I'm going to cover right now, I'd be more than happy to hook you up with that. I won't give you the exact spiel that I give to the students, but I'll kind of go over what I talk to them about. I like to go over what my background is. So I went to Iowa State, much like Samantha, and I studied MIS and entrepreneurship. And I've been in IT all the way up until basically this job at NewBoCo. So I was always the head of IT in different industries, whether that be ag manufacturing or healthcare software, or even the railroad for 2.5 years. But I like to point out to them that my very first experience with computers was really in the 7th grade, when my dad brought home a computer. And they always laugh when they see this picture, because this is really what the computer looked like when I got it, when I was in 7th grade. And, basically tearing that thing apart and figuring out how it worked was basically what got me into computers. And essentially, this is what the kids have now. They're probably not ripping them apart. At least I'm sure their parents hope they're not ripping them apart. But, it's the same stuff on the inside. It's just much, much smaller. And they're using the computers and the technology for the same thing I did too. I mean, I was chatting with people online, in high school, even though it was over dial-up. And I was playing games, and I was doing research for homework and things like that. So essentially, we're using the same technology. It's just much, much improved. And I like to make sure that I point out to the students what an IT career means. So, sometimes I think they just don't have any idea. I might even have to start off with explaining that IT means information technology. They don't know what it is. And so ultimately, IT comes down to just solving problems. That's really what these IT jobs are. It's much more than just being a programmer. Especially we started Delta V Code School, and we were teaching code, and now we do even more than that. But it's not just sitting in a dark basement coding by yourself, which is maybe what some people think of when they think of IT jobs. And so I like to point out all these different, areas of IT of people that I have worked with that were into networking, or maybe their full-time job was around databases or user interface or design. I was doing one of these talks once, and as there was a 6th grader that was walking me to the classroom to show me where it was, and we were making small talk, and I told her what I was talking about. She's like, "Oh, nope, computers, that's not for me." And I said, "Oh, okay, well, what are you into?" And she's like, "Well, I really like art." And I said, "Oh, well, actually, we need artists in IT as well. If you go to some really cool website that looks amazing and it's really interactive and it's designed really, really well, someone had to do that, and it's not me, because I am not a designer." So we definitely have a place for everybody. And hardware, reporting, help desk, which is where I started, just at the help desk as an intern, project management, and security. All these different roles look very different, but they're all still IT related. And the other thing I like to point out is that every company has problems that IT can help solve. And it's not like when I was in college, everybody just assumed, oh, you're going to go work for Google or Microsoft or Apple, like one of the big tech companies. Well, no, every company needs tech and needs IT help. And so, I even point out to the students, you've got a lot of technology here at your school. So there is someone who's responsible for the technology that keeps things running in your school. So everybody needs IT help. And then when, if I'm talking to them about, whether IT would be a good fit for them, I kind of run through these questions. Do you like solving problems? Do you like being creative? Do you like talking to people? Do you like working in teams? Do you like working on your own? Do you like playing with new technology? And that's definitely the one that got me sucked in. But if you answer yes to any of these questions, then it might be a really good fit. And again, everybody needs IT and always will. So, there's that job security piece of that as well that's appealing. And I like to point out to students that there are many different paths to getting into IT. There's not just one way that you get into an IT career. And I've worked with so many different people and they've all taken different paths, it seems like, to get into the career that they're in. And so I like to just point out some of those. It could be as simple as getting a certification. If I need a Cisco network engineer and I'm looking at resumes and someone has a CCNA, okay, they know what they need to know in order to do this job. That's what I'm looking for. I'm looking for a certification. Or you can obviously go to a 2-year school, either DMAC or Kirkwood. They have web technology degrees that you could go after. I took the 4-year school route. You could do that as well. There's honestly a lot to be learned on your own online. So, there's really great resources, whether it be YouTube or khanacademy.org or things like that. I mean, there's a whole list of great resources online that students could really teach themselves a lot on their own. And then obviously the biased answer is that we have a boot camp at NewBoCo. And again, it's primarily aimed at adult career changers, but we've had some recent high school grads that for whatever reason have decided that a 2 or 4-year school just is not the fit for them. And so maybe something like Delta V would be a fit for them. And this one always resounds with them. We need help. we need your help. We need more people in the tech talent pool for Iowa companies to hire from. So, this is our code.org stat that says there's over 2,900 open computing jobs in the state of Iowa. This is specifically for Iowa. You've got 66% of public high schools teaching at least some sort of computer science class, but there's only 679 computer science graduates across the entire state every year. And so there's that gap that we're really trying to help fill. And it was something that I certainly witnessed when I was a hiring manager, just trying to find IT people to fill these open roles that I had. It was really hard to find that tech talent. So our Delta V Code School, specifically the programming side, is 20-week program all in. It starts with a Delta V 101, which we're now just doing for free. It's on a Saturday. It's still over Zoom. And essentially it's teaching you how to build a website. So HTML, CSS, at the end of the day, you go from potentially knowing nothing about how to build a website to having a website you can show your friends and families. And it's really good for letting people decide if they're into that or not, if they liked it or not. So you'll get plenty of students that'll go through it and say, that was fun, not for me. And that's totally fine. And then you get some students that take it and they're like, yep, I want more. That was amazing. And so the 102, and this slide's a little outdated, I guess it's a week long now. It's not 2 Saturdays back to back like it was. It's actually a week long Monday through Friday. And that gets you deeper into like JavaScript, things like that. And then it gets really serious with Delta V 201 through 401. So that's kind of the full-time program. And again, this is a full-time program. So it's Monday through Friday, 8 to 5 every day, intense with homework. We do have a night and weekend path that someone can take the 201 and 301 with at least. But then the 401 is still daytime only. But that's basically taking you from knowing potentially nothing to being a junior level full stack developer in 20 weeks that's career ready. Especially through the 401 program, every Friday morning is spent talking about career stuff. So reviewing resumes, mock interviews, technical interviews, how to do a job search, that sort of thing. And then we've added an ops program. And so this is more like the help desk or network and system administration. And you can do that in an even shorter amount of time. So if you're interested in a career in help desk, you can literally get that done in 5 weeks. You tack on 4 more weeks and you could be ready for a network administration job. And later this fall, we're going to be adding cybersecurity. So a lot of great stuff going on the ops side of things. If people aren't necessarily interested specifically in being a programmer, there's other options for them as well. And I like to show this because to a lot of people, it just looks like a bunch of letters all jumbled together. But I can tell you, you can know nothing about any of this stuff when you go into Delta V, and you come out knowing what JSON and AJAX and CSS and HTML and jQuery and all that stuff is. And then there's also, like there's many paths to get to these IT careers. There's many paths to getting into Delta V. We've got student loans, just like anywhere else. We have a partner with Skills Fund on that. We have diversity tuition awards. So it's really important to us as a nonprofit to see more diversity in software development. And so these diversity tuition awards are available to take the tuition down for people that are underrepresented in tech. So that would be women, that would be BIPOC, that would be people with disabilities, and that would certainly be people of low income. So folks can apply for diversity tuition awards, and those are funded through companies like Transamerica, anonymous donors, as well as state grants that we receive to help bring that cost down for students. We also do registered apprenticeships. So we have a registered apprenticeship for software development. We have a registered apprenticeship for digital marketing development. And essentially that's just a way for any employers that are interested in hiring an apprentice can actually go through a NewBoCo sponsored apprenticeship, which means we do all the paperwork for them. And essentially they either pay the person while they go through Delta V, or they actually cover their tuition for them. And then when they get the on-the-job training portion, they kind of go up in increments as they show they're fully competent in certain levels. They move their way up. So that's a U.S. Department of Labor registered apprenticeship that we can help employers out with. This was actually an ad that was running around on the backs of buses for a while in Cedar Rapids, but just pointing out what the average income for a waiter in Iowa is versus the average salary of a Delta V graduate. It's pretty appealing. And it works. So we've got great stories coming out of Delta V that are really encouraging. Jason was in the military, came back and got into phone sales, knew that's not really what he wanted to do. He wanted to get into software development, but he wasn't quite sure how. And, going back to a 2 or a 4-year school was definitely not in the cards for him. So we went to UFG. He got snatched up by UFG Insurance as soon as he graduated. Did really, really well there and got promoted several times before another company stole him away. So Jason was a really good story out of Delta V. Same with Ethan. He actually worked at Hy-Vee. He worked at the Market Grill. He heard about Delta V. He wanted to get into software development, but he actually really loved Hy-Vee. So I worked with Ethan on calling up the head of IT at Hy-Vee and said, hey, you're going to see this really weird resume from somebody who works at Hy-Vee Market Grill, but now wants to be a software developer with you. Let me tell you what Delta V is all about so that, you understand where he's coming from. And they hired him, and he's doing great at Hy-Vee Aisles Online. So now he's working on, the online portion of how you get your groceries ordered. And then Nathan, he had a college, or he had a band teacher music degree from Drake, was teaching middle school band, and was like, you know what? Nope, this isn't for me. I need a new career. And so he came to Delta V, and then he ended up working for a merchants bonding company in Des Moines. So some really great stories coming out of Delta V. And usually I'll let students know, first and foremost, please search out any computer science classes that are available at your school. It's a great place to start. Talk to your counselor about what your options are. And then talk to your counselor also about what's next, what's after high school, what would be interesting to you. If anybody is potentially interested in anything Delta V related, I usually point out to them when our next Delta V code would be. This is going to be dated because it's the end of May, but we usually have one every month. And again, it's still on a Saturday, but it's over Zoom, and I think it's more like 9 to 5, where essentially it's still free, but you try it out, see if you like it, and that's certainly available to high school students as well. It's a good way for them to figure out if that'd be something they'd be passionate about. And people can just sign up for that at deltavcodeschool.com. I think it takes a $10 deposit, and then it gives it back to you after you actually show up for the class. And then this summer, we have an ops class coming up. So a cohort of ops is starting up June 28th. What's interesting is that we just received some funding with Future Ready Iowa Employer Innovation Grant specifically their summer youth internship program. And so we're going to pilot something brand new that we've never done before, where we're going to have 10 Cedar Rapids area high schoolers actually go through our Ops 102 and 201 curriculum along with adult career changers. And they're actually going to experience the full 5-week program, Monday through Friday, 8 to 5. They're going to get an ops kit and laptop and all of that. And we're really excited to see kind of what comes out of that. And especially if that's an area of passion for them, they're going to get connected with local employers a little bit to just chat about what kind of careers there are. But we're really looking forward to seeing if that, stoke some fires in some of those kids to maybe pursue a career in IT, and maybe specifically in help desk or network administration. So that's what we're doing with Delta V and with NewBoCo. And I will turn it over to Samantha to talk about specifically on the K-12 side, computer science.
Great, thanks, Aaron. So I'm Samantha Dalby, and I'm the Director of K-12 Education at NewBoCo. So I work with programs that serve both students directly, and then a lot of our programs also support K-12 educators to bring programs and opportunities to students. So we usually start with talking about why computer science. Why is it important for all students to be exposed to this? And I like to start off with this image, this page of images of all of these different things that have computer science wrapped into it, but it's not just programming like Aaron was talking about. So you see there's computer science impacting healthcare with like the Fitbits and the health trackers that we see. There are things in agriculture with the urban farm that's kind of that bright fluorescent pink, as well as the drone that is surveying the crop field there. So definitely in urban and rural settings with agriculture. And then in the top right, the guy that's in awe at whatever he's looking at using AR or VR, augmented reality or virtual reality. And some of you may have experience with that in your classrooms. But there's a lot of applications for that outside of just being able to explore and tour other parts of the world. It's being used in healthcare for imaging and being able to do different surgeries and robotics and things like that. Down at the bottom, one of our favorite characters from Pixar. I always like to talk about the artistic part of that, like Aaron alluded to earlier. So there's a lot of computer science in the animations that are coming out. I always like watching the extras at the end of videos. And there's one, I think it's in Finding Nemo, where there's a programmer there with Pixar that talks about how she was in charge of making the ocean look realistic and look like an ocean. So imagine being in charge of the ocean and making that look real for an entire movie. And then the last one with the self-driving Uber car is one of those. It's either super exciting or super terrifying, or maybe a little bit of both in my case. We've got self-driving vehicles is a big area, and especially in Iowa, where I-80 and parts of 380 are actually test areas for self-driving semis. So you may be driving on interstates in Iowa and there is someone in the cab of a semi next to you, but the truck is actually driving itself. And they're doing tests around that because we have so much trucks going through our area, and how that's impacting the trucking industry with hours that people can be driving and things like that. So no matter what students are interested in, they're going to need these different skills, and these skills are taught through learning computer science and IT. So problem solving, critical thinking, collaboration, perseverance. All of those things are needed in pretty much any industry they're going to go into, and they get a lot of practice. So we talk a lot about what computer science thing, but what actually is it? So I like to use this peacock visual here that shows the 7 big ideas of computer science. And most of the time, people think of the ones in the middle, the algorithms and the programming and coding, because that's what we see in the movies and in TV shows. But all of these 7 areas are really integral into computer science. So with big data, think about the shopping you might do online or your healthcare information, and how companies are mining that data and looking for trends, looking ways to be more efficient, maybe looking at like imaging in the medical area and being able to analyze results. All of those things are very important, and it's much, much bigger than someone being able to look through a spreadsheet by themselves. So we need people with computing background to help analyze that and pull out the information. I have not run into a person yet that doesn't want their students to be able to use abstraction and problem solving. So taking a concept and applying it to a different area, being able to break something down into smaller pieces and solve a problem. On the other side, we have the internet. This one's always fun because, especially with young kids, and this invisible thing called Wi-Fi, it just works out there. And why can't I use my iPad in the car if they don't have a cellular connection? So understanding how the world around us works is one of those big whys of why computer science is important for all students to understand. We want to demystify it and make it not just this magical thing. We want them to have a foundational understanding, just a basic understanding of how things work so that they can understand how to use the technology in the best way. And then I think the two most important ones for me are the ones on the bottom, the creativity and the global impact. The creativity piece, if you think about students writing a paper, they may have the same goal or the same topic, but they should all be different. They should all have a different paper at the end. That's the same with programming, computer science, solving those problems. They have the same problem to solve or the same goal at the end, but all students have the ability to solve that in a different way that they think of, that they come to or collaborate on. And then the global impact piece is we no longer work by ourselves in those dark basements alone. We're working with people within our companies. Our companies may be distributed throughout the world, or we're solving problems that are really a global problem and being able to impact that. So oftentimes when I talk with students, it's, you can solve a problem in your own backyard that may not, change the world necessarily, but it solves a problem that you have. You might solve a problem in your community, or you can also impact the whole world by trying to solve something. So those are our 7 big ideas that we really focus on around computer science education and wanting students to engage in. It's also important to talk about what computer science is not. I think this is getting easier. People are becoming more educated, and all of these things are also important. It's just not just computer science, right? So it's still important for students to learn how to type and use keyboards, but that's not a keyboarding class is not a computer science class. Students may really enjoy playing games. They might love using technology, but we want them to also learn how to create with it so that they're also seeing what they can use around them and within the world to solve problems. Again, how to use applications, how to use a computer. All of these are great, especially, digital literacy, things like that. But we want them to be creating, not just consuming. So when we talk about computer science in schools, they did some studies, continuing to refine these studies and follow up. But I believe it was back in 2015 where they asked what subjects students really like a lot, quote unquote. And you'll notice that arts and computer science and engineering were really at the top here. And why that is because students have that autonomy to, like I said earlier, they can have that goal and the output that they're working towards, but they get to choose how that looks. They get control over that, and it seems like a lot of fun to be solving that and working in groups in particular. So within Iowa, we have a lot of resources that have cropped up over the past 4 to 5 years. And I wanted to share those because it's really helpful in finding support within schools and also just knowing where to go or where to look, connect with people. So the first one here is the Computer Science Professional Development Incentive Fund. These are funds that get appropriated by the legislature each year. And the districts or AEAs, area education agencies, can apply for these funds to support professional development for teachers to implement computer science. So those are a great way to get funding to go to professional development or have professional development come to you. The next one is STEM Scale Up. So if you're not familiar with the Iowa STEM Advisory Council, you should definitely check them out. And they have STEM scale-up programs that oftentimes have a computer science component or a computer science professional development included. So those are 2 great options that happen each year. There's also a National Teachers Association called CSTA, or Computer Science Teachers Association, and Iowa has an active chapter. This last year in particular, we were quite active holding at least monthly meetups virtually, in some cases twice a month. There's also a fantastic national conference that happens each July. That's really great, a really great deal for being exposed to different concepts, K-12, great speakers and peers that are sharing what they're doing in their classrooms. There's also a Department of Education computer science leadership team. And then there's oftentimes a state working group. Right now, there's a general computer science state working group that is looking to prioritize recommendations for the next steps in Iowa. Sometimes it has a more specific goal in mind, like one time we were convening to adopt standards and things like that. So great resources in the state. And of course, if you are not sure where to begin, you can certainly reach out to us at NewBoCo, and we're happy to help connect you. The next thing to point out in the state is that Iowa is actually seen as like the second best Midwestern state with computer science. So Erin shared that stat where 66% of our high schools are offering at least one course, a computer science course. We are behind Indiana by just a little bit, but we are looking to expand that. And last summer of 2020, the Iowa legislature passed a law requiring a couple of things that are going to be rolling out very soon. So House Senate File 2629 is first going to require all, and it's actually public and private schools now are going to submit a K-12 computer science plan by July 1st of 2022. So this is a plan for what they're going to be doing K-12. And then at the same time, all high schools are going to be required to offer at least one semester of a computer science specific course. So that's the first step. And then the following year, so starting July 1st, 2023, it's bringing in elementary and middle school. Those are pretty flexible and open, a nice low bar that's a great way to get started, where at least one grade in grades 1st through 6 need to incorporate the standards, and at least one grade in grades 7 through 8 need to do the same. So altogether, those are the requirements around computer science right now. There is no requirement for teachers to have an endorsement in computer science at the moment. However, I always encourage teachers to start that process early before it is required. So that's something that you also might want to think about. So that's at the state level. And now how do we actually meet those, and what opportunities are available in Iowa? There's some great options. There's some great, either micro-credentials or courses through AEAs in the state. But today I'm going to talk about what NewBoCo is offering. And this map has really expanded in the last year to include more opportunities. So at the very top, that kind of gray outline for K-12, we have this wonderful partnership with another nonprofit called MindSpark and IBM. And there is an introduction to artificial intelligence that's appropriate for any teacher in K-12. There's no coding involved with that. It's really high level, but it explains what artificial intelligence is. And then you go through some great activities that you could consider integrating into a lesson or into a unit with your students. Then if we're looking at the preschool through 2nd grade, there's a professional development workshop that we are going to be offering for the very first time this year called Tiny Techies. That is based off of a program that I've been running with a local school for the last 3 or 4 years and refining. And now we're going to be offering professional development for teachers to be able to expand access in the state and beyond. For elementary school, there is a computer science curriculum through code.org that is completely free. It's called CS Fundamentals. That is something that we are the regional partner for with code.org for the state of Iowa. And we are able to offer professional development for elementary school teachers or even secondary teachers that might be wanting to have a couple of activities or get training on how they might integrate some of those lessons into their subject areas. Moving into middle school, another new offering this year is Project Guts. So all of these are actually free curricula, so you don't have to pay a subscription fee or anything. There's just a fee for the professional development, and a lot of that funding that I mentioned earlier will cover that. But Project Guts is middle school science modules that integrate computer science, specifically around how to model different phenomena or different areas. So you don't have to swap out your middle school science curriculum, but you can use these modules to supplement and give students a little bit more visual representation and hands-on exposure to what some of these concepts look like. Also for middle school and into early high school is CS Discoveries from code.org, followed by the CS Principles course as a nice sequence of computer science specific curricula. The CS Principles course is AP optional, so if you're a school that likes to offer AP courses, it is structured for that. It's kind of a drag and drop, ready to submit for your audit, easy to go, and all of the code.org programs are pretty flexible in your implementation options. So that is kind of our menu option for teachers in Iowa that we are offering around computer science. So a little bit of history of where we've been. So we became a regional partner with code.org in 2016 and began promoting and working on setting up structures within our state. And during the 2017-18 school year, we had our first pilot cohorts of 32 middle and high school teachers, and they reached over 1,800 students that year. So that was kind of our baseline. And you'll see with our map that they are located pretty much all over the state. So that was a great start to see. And then we're excited that now, having been doing this for several years, we've worked with 255 middle and high school teachers, and they have collectively reached over 13,000 students and counting. So definitely a great impact, and of course, covering the entire state, urban, rural, suburban, all over the place. So really proud of the impact and reach that we've had there. We work with facilitators in the state that are classroom teachers or retired classroom teachers, and they do a fantastic job of relating the content and giving their personal experiences, highs, lows, struggles, things that they've modified over the years, all of that. And then as far as elementary, we've worked with over 700 elementary school teachers in our workshops, and they have collectively reached over 28,000 students and counting. So over 40,000 students in the state have been impacted by us, and those are just the ones that we have data on to count. So I'm sure that there are more that we don't know about. If you want to learn more about our partnership, about all of our professional development, you can find that on our site, NewBo.co. You can navigate to the education section and see all of the professional development opportunities for our educators. And we really appreciate your time. We hope that this helped give you a little bit of an idea of the opportunities in Iowa and some of the supports that are available for educators to help bring this to your classroom and expose students to computer science and information technology. If you have any questions, I know that Erin and myself would be happy to answer them or connect you with someone who can. So feel free to reach out, and thank you very much.
Thanks, everybody.